Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 637, Bachelor Party and True Detective Recaps. Big Chillians, welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joins always with Eddie. Eddie, how's it going?
Yeah, things are going pretty well. Come back from our little bachelor party stag do in Ireland with a little bit of a cold. That's my only lasting effect, but so I apologize for my voice. A little raspier than usual, but aside from that, things are going pretty well.
Yeah, I think everyone is slowly recovering. And in fact, I think we are in the old enough stage that everyone got home thinking that it would be a straight trajectory upward, whereas many people continue to dip down for another day before they are now starting to trend in the upward direction.
I mean, I felt really good when I got back. It's just it's cold. That's the killer. Yeah.
I mean, you also had a 1 hour flight.
Yeah, 2 hours, but yeah. But I don't suffer from bad hangovers anyway, and I'm used to not sleeping as much and probably more used to the sort of that type of weekend than most other people attending were. But the only thing I did feel was that part of me was like, it would have been nice to have stayed until Monday.
Yeah.
And then used Sunday as like a quiet day, just like, okay, would have gone to a pub, but maybe just had a couple little pints, had a bit of food.
Yeah, work on the withdrawal a little.
Gone to bed at 11 midnight, and then been able to really get Monday going. But in a sense, you're delaying the inevitable with that because there's a chance that the Sunday goes off the rails. So, like,
well, for some people it does go off the rails, but
yeah, we won't go into details there.
But yeah, I think, well, for me, I didn't actually feel hungover any day, and that was 3 days of a good amount of drinking each day. I didn't wake up like hungover. It was just the lack of sleep that kind of got to me after a while, where like I just felt tired. And then especially having a 9-hour and a 5-hour flight with a 4-hour layover and a 7-hour time difference, like really messes with your ability to sleep and feel tired. So
yeah, that's a killer. My flight wasn't until the evening. I lost 1 hour with the time change. I was happy I'm not a big sleeper. We've spoken about this in the past. I'm not a big plane sleeper, but I really felt like I was primed to sleep through the entire flight. And I got onto my seat. I was seat 1C. I was like, this is perfect. I'm going to get to go to sleep. I'm going to be off the plane at first. Everything's going to go super well. I sat down. I was asleep before we were like pulling away. I had a middle seat the next seat immediately next to me was unoccupied. And then the guy on the window got up before we took off, and I could never get back to sleep. And he was also...
I thought you were going to say he moved over to the middle seat. Felt uncomfortable at the window, moved over to the middle.
He was also an Orthodox priest, and he prayed the entire flight. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not a nervous flyer, but having someone openly pray next to you for the entire plane flight makes you a little bit nervous. In particular, because as I think it's come up on previous podcasts, I'm a little bit of a fan of air crash investigation. One of the defining features of an episode of air crash investigation is that there's like really identifiable characters on the plane. So in my mind, I was like, oh no, this is the episode with the Orthodox priest, the guy with a 3-foot tall hat. That's obviously going to make for, and I'm just going to be like a side character on the aisle next to him as we plummet to the ground. But aside from that, pretty smooth flight.
Yeah, I think for the most part, the bachelor party, not without its stories, but nothing truly went like off the rails. I mean, no arrests, no missing people, no bar fights or anything like that. So uneventful in that sense, but eventful in the sense that I think everyone had a pretty good time. My two main personal takeaways is I am not very good in a go-kart. And two, I am a man who loves a silent disco.
Yeah, the silent disco was a new discovery for several
Yeah.
attendees on that bachelor party. For those who don't know what that means, it's basically you go to a bar or a club. They give everyone headphones, and into that, you get to choose. Usually, there's 2 or 3 channels of different music you can choose, and the idea is that you kind of dance along listening to your own music. But aside from that, there's no music being pumped in over the speakers, which is kind of like a weird experience. We spoke about it, right? It appears to make like everyone more comfortable in themselves, that you kind of can be yourself, even though you
Yeah.
think it would make you feel more self-conscious, that you like looked weirder. But weirdly, it kind of puts everyone in their own little bubble where they feel as if they can express themselves more easily.
Yeah, I would like to see a study on the, on the psychology of that, because I fully agreed with you. I mean, even, you know, constant friend who gets brought up in the podcast, Tim, not much of a dancer usually at bars, and especially when this bar was split up, where there was like a room where the silent disco was going on, and then a room with a bar that there were tables, and you and a few others were kind of just sitting at the table drinking. I feel like that's more of Tim's scene. But we put these headphones on him, and he became like a fist pumping New Jerseyan, like he had spent decades at Monmouth University.
Yeah, no, he loved it. He loved it from the moment he put those headphones on. He loved it because at first it was just me, him, and former co-host Sam up there, and literally he put those headphones on, and the hips started thrusting, and they never stopped for the next 3.5 hours. So yeah, he really enjoyed it. And the nice thing is the other benefit. I mean, I kind of listened to the music. I wasn't out on the dance floor, but if you want to have a conversation, you can just pop the headphones off,
Yeah, it
and
is a
then you
great
don't have
idea.
you don't have to yell at each other. You're able to speak in a normal tone because there's no music blasting. So it's great for people who want to dance, and it's great for people who want to talk. So it's sort of a perfect world.
Yeah. I also think, looking back on that night, that's going to be one of the nights I look back and say, very surprised I didn't die of a heart attack that night. That was the most Red Bull I think I've ever drank in my life in a 4-hour window there. I have to be thankful that I'm still living today.
That was definitely a lot of Red Bull. I
I
was
mean, that
surprised you.
I've heard stories of, I think, people genuinely dying of drinking too much Red Bull, and that was around the range of the amount of Red Bull they had.
Yeah, you were knocking them back pretty quickly, and you were sweating a lot too. So
So it's quite dehydrated.
one of the signs that there might have been an impending heart attack based on your facial expressions and sweat pouring out of you, it was probably not a great sign. But yeah, you made it through. And yeah, you're right. I think overall, really nice trip. No debauchery, which I'm happy of. Like neither of us are strip club guys or stripper guys, and so it's nice to. It's always a slight risk that you're going to go to a bachelor party and people are going to really push for that because they think that's what you have to do. And it was nice that, it was just a bunch of guys having a few fun nights out, but not doing anything. It wasn't like bachelor party activity. It was just going out and having a good time.
When you say stripper guys, you mean we're not usually the type who will be stripping?
I would be more likely to strip than to attend a strip club. I'll put it that way.
I don't know whether I needed to hear that.
But yeah, no, it was good. It was good. Had some good food. Obviously enjoyed the Guinness. You know me, I don't buy into the whole like it tastes better in Ireland element, but I do think obviously
I think it
the
does.
standard is higher. A good pint of Guinness is a good pint of Guinness anywhere. The difference is that the care and attention that they put into like the lines and pouring it, you're more likely to get someone who is paying attention to what they're doing. But like a good pint, once they've 50 years ago, yeah, because they couldn't ship it properly. Nowadays, I don't think it really changes anything. But the overall standard is pretty nice.
I mean, maybe more people need to hire me to pour the proper Guinness.
Maybe.
Being the one who won the competition.
The Guinness storehouse was interesting, although, and again, I like Guinness. It's my kind of standard go-to drink, but I don't know if they really need a museum. There is an element there of like, look how special we are. Like there is that bit of it where it's like, we get it. You make a nice beer, but you're not saving the world. So, you know, I don't know if you need 6 floors dedicated to just how amazing you are, but it was interesting and some cool things. The bar at the top is great.
The bar on top
And
is awesome. Although I feel slightly disappointed we didn't reenact the Joe Montana commercial. Have you not seen that really terrible commercial?
no,
So Joe Montana's up at the top and he asks for like a Guinness or something like that. And the guy's like, Guinness. It says something about, like, and he calls him like an old man. And the guy's like, do you know who that is? It's like the dumbest commercial ever. And I don't know why Joe Montana is the spokesperson for Guinness at 2023.
but yeah, good trip. We had good food. Speaking of food, I don't know. We often do fast food updates. I don't know if you've seen some breaking news from the past 24 hours or so from Wendy's. Have you seen any of this?
I have not. What happened?
So
They're done?
Wendy's is no, well, they might be. This might be a sign that they're on their way out, but they are planning to implement Uber-style surge pricing on their food. So they're, for example, the Dave Single, which is their like classic burger, will its price will vary between $7 to $10 depending on the time and the demand at any given moment. This feels like a gimmick that fast food does not need.
Yeah. Why? I don't get it.
I guess they think it will drum up interest, and I suppose if the price maybe is going to dip below what it currently is on some items, then maybe people will be drawn there in hope of a bargain. And then, like, once you're there, you're not going to go there hoping for a bargain and be like, ah, shit, it's $2 more than I'd hoped. I'm going to go to McDonald's. So,
Maybe.
but I've gone to like bars that copy this principle, that like stock market bars.
I've seen the stock market bars. I've never been to a stock market bar.
You go once, you'll probably never go again.
Yeah.
Like,
I bet you the Red Bull and vodka on Saturday night was surging at the stock market bar, if that's where we were.
You would have bankrupted yourself. That would have been a tough night for you. But yeah, no, it does feel like these are the desperate moves of a company maybe struggling and looking for something to separate itself from its competition. Now, in the sports world,
I was gonna say real quick. Did you actually enjoy the food in Ireland?
So if I think we went for our first night, our meal, Japanese food.
Oh yeah, we didn't discuss the hibachi.
We went for hibachi
In Ireland. Hibachi. They say, you know what they say, Eddie? You come to Ireland for the Guinness. You stay for the hibachi.
The hibachi was good. I mean, it was just a good group activity, like a really good
I think it was selection. Our
best meal. I actually had really good fish and chips at that pub near the Guinness storehouse. That fish and chips was really good, and yeah. It's probably the meal I enjoyed the most. And a little shout out to Brewdog. I had a chicken Caesar salad there that was actually pretty nice.
So, I get the Cluck Norris. I've gotten it twice in 2 weeks now. It's a very good chicken sandwich.
And the wings there are good.
They have good wings. And they have Hasselback fries, who I tore into someone for ordering, but then they were actually quite good.
Yeah. No, I mean, we had one disappointing meal. But aside from that,
and 2 slightly disappointing breakfasts.
Yeah, we never really got a great breakfast. Which is a shame, because that was one of the things I was most looking forward to. Because whenever I'm back in the UK or Ireland, that's one of those meals that I just don't get here in France. So you really feel like that's going to be the kind of separating experience. And yeah, neither of the breakfasts that we had were particularly good. I didn't have breakfast on Sunday. I actually did not eat on Sunday until I got to France.
Okay. So the good fish and chips you had on Saturday, that bar, I had ordered the pastrami sandwich, and I was quite excited to have a pastrami sandwich. and then, or a corned beef sandwich. Sorry, it was a corned beef sandwich. And I was quite excited because I saw another table had gotten in that looked like a really nice sandwich. But then someone else at the table had ordered like the beef and mushroom soup or pie or whatever, and they had accidentally brought them the seafood chowder. And this person does not eat seafood and was unwilling to wait for their meal to be replaced.
Former co-host Sam.
Yes.
I have not heard this story, but this is Sam, the pickiest eater in the world.
So then I had to take the seafood chowder and give Sam my corned beef sandwich. It's quite disappointed.
You should have told me. I would have happily eaten the chowder.
I think you had already had your meals.
No, we got served last.
I know. Now that I knew that, but we had thought that because we had thought we were like rushing to eat. So that was half the thing was, oh, Sam, just eat the chowder. He's like, I don't really eat fish. And I was like, well, either you're not going to fucking eat or I'm going to have to step up here and give you my sandwich.
Yeah, not a rip into former co-host Sam, but when you're an adult and you just won't eat like a full section of food, sort of the food available, not because of an allergy. If he just said he's allergic to fish, then it is what it is. But just because you don't like the taste of fish, like but he loves battered fish. You know, he'll eat fish and chips. If you can, you know, he has the palate of a 4-year-old.
And the last thing I'll say about our food experience is I also had a new first in my salad. I will not say where we ate, but we all had a nice dinner at a nice brasserie, or not a brasserie, like what was it? Like I don't know what you would call it.
It calls itself a brasserie. I'll say it by name. It was? Yeah, it's Bloom Brasserie in Dublin. I'll say it by name only because you got a snail in your food and they didn't give anything for free.
Well, way to blow the surprise. Yeah, I grabbed a piece of my salad, bit down, thought I had bit a rock, spit out said rock, only to look and see that it was a snail shell. So then I said, oh, there was a snail shell in my salad. And then I looked closer and saw that it was slightly gooey and dropped it on the table, and a baby snail continued to crawl along our table. We then got the server over, and he played it off as if this is no big deal ever for someone to have live snails in their salad when they clearly should not be there.
Yeah, he said it just shows how fresh their salad is. And like, I don't have any issue with him trying to minimize the situation and to make a little joke out of it, especially when he saw none of us were sort of wildly upset. But in the very least, that particular, to be charged for that plate, like, okay, they brought you a new one immediately, but that's unbelievable to me. Like, I can't understand how you wouldn't say, we'll just knock off that steak. Like, we can't charge him. I would have thought for far more than that. Like, let me get a round of drinks for the table. You know, let me do something. But
did I not react enough? Is this
probably
my fault?
You probably had to go into a little bit of a Karen mode and complain a bit more.
I think I was just so hot and sweaty and tired. I was defeated.
Also, we didn't know what the actual cost of anything was, which made it hard to complain. You know, like you didn't really know what you were arguing about at that point. But yeah, I would just say that does not get the Big Chill stamp of approval. They will not be experiencing the Big Chill bump anytime soon. If you're ever in Dublin, give Bloom Brasserie a miss.
Give it a miss. I thought you were going to say, like, give it a rock in the window.
Throw some snails at them.
There you go.
But yeah. But no, overall, good food, good drinks. I mean, I only really drank Guinness. I had a few gin and tonics, a couple glasses of wine, but it was pretty much a Guinness exclusive experience for me. I had one glass of orange juice, one tea, a little bit of water, but it was 90% of the liquid that I consumed was Guinness.
Let's not forget you also had a donut.
How many donuts did you have, Frank?
One.
How many donuts did I buy? 0. How many donuts did you buy, Frank?
I only bought one, but I had to split another one.
Okay.
In a group of 12. Donuts total.
But yeah, no, it was a good trip.
So
Only
I guess the
shame.
end of the trip
Yeah.
was Sunday, and
Yes.
you got to watch the Liverpool match that I did not. That Jurgen Klopp said was the most special trophy he's ever won.
Yeah, I don't understand that. So I only got to saw the 90 minutes because we had to go to the airport, and we kind of, with when our flights were timed, we made a calculated decision that if we left at the end of 90 minutes, that if it went to a penalty shootout, we thought we would be in a bar inside the airport in time to watch the shootout. Which, had that happened, we would have been right on for. But right as we were going through security, Van Dijk scored a late winner for Liverpool. Obviously, I get sort of what he's saying. Obviously, they had to use a lot of young players. They had some key players out through injuries. But, they started that match with a lot's being made of this. Average age doesn't mean everything, but the average age of the Liverpool side was higher than the average age of the Chelsea team. So it's not like they were up against, some titans of Europe. This is a fairly mid-table, inexperienced Chelsea team going through its own rebuilding process at the moment that under normal circumstances you would expect Liverpool to beat. It was a pretty open match. Both teams had a goal disallowed for offside. Both teams hit the post. It could have gone either way. I think Chelsea were probably the better team. After the opening 30 or so minutes in which Liverpool really were sort of somewhat firmly on top, after that Chelsea were probably the better team, but it's a nice trophy for Liverpool to win, and it guarantees obviously that Jurgen Klopp's final season includes some silverware, which is nice for him. But I think it's a little bit of a stretch, seeing as he was the manager who brought the Premier League title back to Anfield, also has won the Champions League. It seems a little strange to say that winning the League Cup is the sort of most enjoyable trophy he will have had during his time there. We regularly speak about, recency bias. That seems to be one of the most extreme versions of recency bias I've ever heard of.
It's insane. I mean, it's not as if he hasn't won major trophies. Like, it makes no sense.
But I mean, went to a Liverpool, watched it at a Liverpool bar called Murray's, I believe, in Dublin, which was it was packed, exclusively Liverpool supporters, 95% of whom were all wearing Liverpool jerseys. When Liverpool had their goal disallowed, the person on the opposite side of the bar to me, who had probably a 6-month-old baby with him,
Spike the baby.
lifted it up as if it were Simba in The Lion King to celebrate. And it was a remarkable scene, which was then obviously disallowed 2.5 minutes later once the offside had been analyzed. But yeah, it was... and look, it's a weird thing to be in Ireland, a country that doesn't have the fondest feelings towards England. And most of those people probably not big fans of England as a whole, but they love a club based there. It's a little strange, but we won't get into the politics of either Ireland or Liverpool for that matter.
Did you feel that animosity when you were there?
Me in that bar, you mean? Or in when we were in Dublin?
I guess it wouldn't matter for you because they wouldn't fully be able to tell you have some English roots in you.
No.
You should have asked Sam.
Sam was pretty quiet, but no. And I was neutral. We had some English guys with us who were openly supporting Chelsea. But there wasn't too much, it was a pretty friendly atmosphere. It was 3:00 in the afternoon or whatever. So we weren't exactly walking into a cauldron of but it was a decent match. But, I think I just watched a better match between Blackburn and Newcastle in the FA Cup, a much better, much more enthralling cup tie that went to penalties, and I would watch that one, 100 times over before I'd watch that cup final again. And that's not just because I supported one of those teams, but it wasn't it isn't really though. It just wasn't the best match ever. It was a cup final, but it wasn't exactly end-to-end stuff. There weren't that many chances to score. But it was a decent match.
And I guess the other sports related topic that went down during the bachelor party, besides the go-karting, was at the Guinness storehouse. They had an interactive screen where you could kick a rugby ball through the uprights.
Yeah, you could kick a penalty. And most of us were successful in those attempts, including both of us. We kind of got the ball rolling. It. And then there were a couple people
I have to say, that's one of the best kicks I've ever taken in my life. I put that dead center and smashed it.
Yeah. I was surprised. I don't know
how I did that.
I was surprised you got it, because I'm guessing it might be the first time you ever kicked a rugby ball.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I never knew I could kick a rugby ball so well.
You missed your calling. But no, yeah, we all got it. Of the group, I guess probably 10 people attempted it, probably something like that. And
more than that. I would say it was close. Yeah, it was over 15.
I don't know, because I think you're forgetting that one guy tried it 3 times and missed 3 times.
He was the only one that missed.
No, one other person missed.
Once. Yeah, and then they went again and got it.
But no, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. It's a fun activity. That would be a great thing. Something like that at a wedding would be great. Just to let people do that all day.
Yeah, but that would be so fun.
Yeah, pretty good. Aside from that, in the sporting world, we did lose an episode. Your hotel recording that we did, the audio quality was a little bit iffy. So that one goes into the lost files that will be released at some moment in the future when we have Patreon and people can get the, now I guess probably 5 lost episodes that we have, which I'm sure someone will really want to listen to low quality audio of discussing sports events from months/years before. It's what the world is missing in the podcasting world. But the disappointing element of that is obviously we'd spoken a little bit about Bayern struggles, the fact that the Bundesliga looked like it's slipped away from them. Things got a little bit better for them with Harry Kane scoring twice, including a late winner against Leipzig. But still feels like this will be a pretty unsuccessful season for Bayern. Also a shame because I used that episode to make the point that people were using him as the bad juju, but in actual fact, it's probably Eric Dyer, who joined in January. But aside from that, City keep chugging along. Arsenal had an impressive win at the weekend. Erling Haaland scored 5 goals tonight in the FA Cup against Luton. Yep. Maybe back to his best. Maybe that's a bad sign for Liverpool and Arsenal as things start to heat up down the stretch, that Erling Haaland has found his scoring boots again.
Well, he's found his scoring boots, but he's also got the best midfielder in the world setting him up with, I think he had 4 out of the 5 assists to Haaland. So
yeah, it definitely
since he's been back, I honestly think the team is just at that extra level again. It's undeniable what he brings to the club. And it was actually a conversation that former co-host Sam and I had when I was pre-Dublin, when we were in England. I had said to him that it is disappointing to me in that the best football player in the world is similar to the MVP in the NFL in the sense that it's slightly skewed towards a certain position, where I think it is undeniable that he is the best player in the world when it comes to what he brings day in and day out to a team and how that team responds to him kind of leading the team.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin De Bruyne has a chance in the Ballon d'Or. The biggest issue he'll have is the fact that Haaland is scoring all those goals in the same team. So he kind of takes the City attention away from De Bruyne. But the biggest issue he has is that unless Belgium are successful on the international stage, you kind of need that little bit of an edge to really separate yourselves from the rest of the candidates. It's the thing that Haaland will struggle with too in terms of winning lots of Ballon d'Ors, is that he's unlikely to be part of a Norwegian side that consistently does well in international competitions. But, and you look and you think, for example, okay, Mbappe's joining Real Madrid. He becomes the Ballon d'Or frontrunner for the next decade because Real Madrid will win plenty of things, both on the domestic scene and the European level. And then France are consistently in the latter stages of major tournaments. So, you put Mbappe automatically can get penciled in onto the short list of the final 3 or 4. And then you're struggling to make up the rest of those numbers if you're someone like Kevin De Bruyne.
If you're starting a club, are you taking Mbappe first or De Bruyne first? Regardless of I know this is a very difficult situation because it's like, then who else could be the next person you would take and this and that. And let's just say it's not a normal draft like scenario.
I would probably take Mbappe because pace kills, right? It just stretches a team. And that's just devastating in terms of what he can do by getting him behind and having a goal scorer. It's the hardest thing to find. Someone who can score. You look at, that's the thing that's put City over the edge with Haaland. They had De Bruyne before. They were excellent. But it wasn't until Haaland arrived that they won the Premier League. They couldn't get over the hump in the Champions League. They weren't winning the treble. We could be looking at consecutive seasons without Erling Haaland being there where they're going to win the treble potentially. So, it's not like they were a bad team, but Haaland has pushed them up at one extra level. Yeah, I think if I didn't know anything else about what my team was going to be, and I didn't know also where they were going to be playing or who they were going to be playing against, I would take pace and a goal scorer over everything else.
It's tough though, because I understand what you're saying, right? Like, ultimately you need the person to score the goal, but the productivity they have had offensively since he's come back is I think you could see a clear difference since he's been back week in and week out with what they're able to do consistently compared to when he was off the club. But I agree with you, at the end of the day, he's just setting up a lot of these situations and you need that goal scorer to finish it.
Yeah.
And could Sergio Aguero have gotten 5 of those goals today?
Yeah, I mean, Aguero was a great goal scorer too, a different style, but also a great goal scorer. But, Kevin De Bruyne definitely pulls the strings for them, and they kind of tick when he is playing in a way that they don't without him. But he also benefits from having Rodri as potentially the best defensive midfielder in the world protecting him. He has, he's able to put passes together to play to the likes of, Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Doku. There's talent all around him. Now he still has to make those passes and have that vision that very few players in the world have. But would he be as good with less talented players around him? Obviously not. There's a reason why you don't see him as being quite as impactful for Belgium as he is for City. So I would take the goal scorer. Every time. I actually would take his style of player wouldn't come around. I would take a lot of other positions first. I'd take Virgil van Dijk before him. I'd want to structure a really good defensive unit. I would think if I could get Haaland up front or Mbappe up front, and then Van Dijk or a world class central defender.
Short people, Eddie? Why's everyone got to be a fucking giant?
Short kings don't win trophies. But no, yeah. But it's obviously a bit of a difficult conversation. The other sad thing we missed out from our lost episode is we'd spoken about the fact that our good chance ORSA follow the Big Chill podcast on Twitter or X or Instagram, and we had been subject to a whole lot of attention from Emma Raducanu fanboys. I'm pleased to report
and haters.
And haters, the combination of both, who debated each other on our threads for probably 2 weeks. It has finally come to an end. In that time, we probably have close to 2,000 comments that have come in on that thread purely about either complimenting her, insulting her, criticizing her, complimenting her. It's been quite the experience to read. There's some bizarre people on both sides of the argument. And we'll see, maybe just even making a slight mention of them on this episode will be enough to draw them back out. It's not the type of engagement that really does us any help, because it's not like I don't think they've turned into listeners or followers, but certainly made our social media accounts more active. It showed me how annoying it would be to be a famous person. Not that, but like when you literally...
I mean, they clearly turn their notifications off, Eddie.
Our notifications, like, I don't have any notifications on relating to our accounts, but still when you're going back on, you see like how many unread, unnotified, notifications you have. And when you're kind of going back onto the app, and every time you are, like, you go on 1 minute and there's 65 there, and you go on 2 minutes later and there's 85 there still, you could see how that would just be both sort of overwhelming and annoying. Because if you were someone who wanted to try and engage with your fans, you're just like, this is too much. Like I can't pause. Even with a social media team, we would have struggled to somehow interact with all of these people.
Now, I'm going to ask you something. Maybe this isn't a great insight into me. I have no idea how Twitter and X works in terms of notifications. And here's a thing I've always questioned. Is there a way that you only see notifications if someone you're following, like, @s you?
I think
or do you
so.
see what everyone does?
So I think they kind of messed it up a little bit, because for a while you could have it where you only got notifications from like verified accounts.
Okay.
Which was obviously an indication that that person was significant. But now obviously the verified accounts are just paid for accounts most of the time. So that's no longer useful. So I'm presuming there's some setting you can have where it's only if you follow people that maybe you get a notification back. Like if you wanted to have the push notification, I've got no push notifications set up for our account. But yeah, when you log on to either when you open the app or when you go on the website, it still shows you the little bell with, 85. There's no easy way to sort through those, really. So
yeah, because that's what I was thinking. Because maybe we use this as a transition, or maybe it's a little too early. But Issa Lopez, the creator of True Detective Season 4, is very vocal on X in responding to people's comments. And I've never understood, because I would have to assume she's getting tagged in thousands of posts. So it's strange to me to think that, is she reading each one of those and then picking and choosing which ones she wants to respond? Or is she seeing that like someone she follows, or it would make sense with the verification, like someone who's verified that's like a critic makes a comment and then that's the one she goes to, because apparently she's very vocal, like addressing comments people have made about certain episodes.
Well, she's probably getting fewer notifications than you would think. We'll test it out. The Big Chill will give her a shout out after this episode. We'll see if she responds. Admittedly, it is easier to respond, to see the notifications relating to like a comment someone has made, including you, is a lot easier than tracking what happens on a comment you've made and the threads that kind of follow it.
Yeah.
And those also peel off, it's sort of then there's like a section where those are comments on something else someone else has said, and you kind of have this tree form of different conversations that are completely unrelated to one another. So it's impossible to keep track of those. But if you're just going to respond to like the primary comment, it's probably not too challenging. And yeah, there are a few celebrities who are pretty attentive when it comes to that. I can't imagine why you would be. It's such a toxic place. Like, I would have no interest in keeping track of what people were saying about me. I can't see how it would be beneficial to your mental health.
Hey, Eddie, here's a random question. What's the etiquette on telling your friend his wife is hot?
Are we telling this story on the podcast?
We can leave names out. It's not one
Sure.
of us, one
No,
way or the other.
It's neither of us, and it's not former co-host Sam, because he definitely wouldn't find a wife hot. But yeah, so a story was revealed over the course of this bachelor party in which one of the people attending, who was a childhood friend of one of the other people attending,
very close childhood friend,
had a few drinks at a house party, and had told the eldest daughter of the other childhood friend, who is 7 years old, that
the daughter's 7, not the friend.
Yeah, that he had a crush on the daughter's mother, and that she should go and tell the mother that he had a crush on her.
As a joke, maybe, but a very weird joke to play.
The best part about it was he didn't think it was weird at all. Now, in his defense too, right? Completely stand-up guy. I think it's worth making that clear. Like, nothing creepy about it. Because I think a lot of people would just think scumbag move.
Yeah. And it's not as if he was doing that to like, oh, maybe I can then have a move in or something, you know, like does this give me an angle?
And he's also married. So, yeah, there's that element there. The amazing thing to me is that it's seemingly credit to the friend. He took it in stride and saw the sort of funny side of it. And seemingly the man who made the comment, his own wife, didn't get too annoyed by it, which is also surprising. But the wife who got the attention did not enjoy it.
Yeah. I think the only reason was because there was like a child involved in the scenario. Makes it a little weird. Like, had it just been, you know, like he kind of straight up said like, oh yeah, look, you're hot. You know, I think it all just gets played off and everyone laughs. But the fact that there was like a younger child brought in.
I still think it's best.
Yes, I'm not saying I condone people going around telling the wives of their good friends what their hot meter is.
Hot is the difficult part of this, or a crush, right? I think it would be different to just be like, oh, your wife's really pretty. That's fine. Like, that's a comment you can make, right? To be like, oh no, I think your wife's super pretty. But
yeah, hot adds an element of different level of thinking.
Yeah. Like, it's like, I would.
Yeah.
Just telling you. Not only I would, I've thought about it.
Like, although, if you were to go for the Office episode, the question isn't whether she's hot or whether she's doable. It's whether she's hot.
But yeah, that it raises, you know, you then have to have, there's a moment of self-reflection there that you probably don't want to have. But yeah, it's probably poor etiquette. Now, here's the real question, the real debate from the weekend. In a scenario where one friend pays for something for another friend.
Oh man, that was a great debate topic to have genuinely happen the day before the bachelor party started, so we could discuss it at length, the entire bachelor party. And the only, like, I love the fact that you made the comment that the only reason I kept bringing it up was because I saw it was annoying the other person, and that I honestly could have cared less whether I was given the money that I was rightfully owed, but that it just was getting to him that I would keep bringing it up.
Yeah, no, I was trying to give him the advice. And I think within any group of friends where you have the tendency to kind of like rib each other or poke fun or like try and push buttons, you have to realize sometimes that the only reason why a conversation or a topic is continuing is because people think that it's irking you a little bit. And this was former co-host Sam. At times he has a total inability to realize that fact. This is not the first time that I've witnessed that. You know, former guest Ollie, former guest Jake, both people who at different moments in times will, particularly Ollie, will not let something go because they know they can just keep getting to him. And he never seems to recognize that the best course of action is to just be like, just to go with it. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And you completely take the wind out of the other person's sails. But as long as you keep fighting back, like the outcome doesn't matter of the discussion. It's just that they're enjoying watching you get worked up.
Now, I guess obviously we should lay out the scenario for the listener so that they can give us their opinions and their feedback. So I'll keep it succinct as possible. We did a pub tour for which I paid for Sam to attend the pub tour, which was 25 euros plus a tip. So it ended up being about 30 euros. Then 2 days later, we went to the airport and Sam was able to get me into the lounge for 28 euros. And
with
I
a
hadn't
guest
even
pass.
With the guest pass.
So you wouldn't have been able to, important detail, you couldn't have got in without
Yes.
him. And he paid for you.
Yes. And he paid for me to get in. Then a third friend came in for which he also paid to get that friend in. And this lounge is quite possibly one of the worst organized lounges I've ever been in. And what happened was they erroneously charged, then refunded, and then refund.
No, there's a reason why they did it. The reason is you can only have one guest. And so what they wanted to do was to kind of, in terms of managing the account, this is getting a little too into
I think we're getting a little too deep here.
No, but just to say, like, worst managed lounges, there was a reason behind what they did, which is because he could only have one guest, they were actually being generous by allowing the second. So as part of allowing that, they wanted to cancel one of the payments and then put them onto the single charge, because that way it wouldn't look as sort of strange that one account was being charged multiple times.
But what they then instead did was refunded the entire charge. So then Sam no longer paid for me. And actually, he also no longer paid for himself because he also had an entrance fee. So all three of us then got into the lounge for free. And then the question then became, does Sam still owe me the money that I paid for him for the tour? Because technically he did not pay anything for me to get in, nor did he actually pay anything for himself to get in.
Yeah, and the answer to me was a firm yes.
Yeah.
Like, if it hasn't actually cost you any money, then you haven't paid the person back.
Yeah. And then the killer argument that really put him in his place was, had this scenario happened where I paid for his tour and then he instantly paid me back, and then no debt was owed, and then we went to this lounge and I gave him the money to let me in, and then he didn't get charged, would he have just kept that money I gave him, or would he have handed it back to me? And the clear answer is you give it back to that person.
Yeah, I mean, the scenario doesn't even really have to be that complicated, right? It's as if you're paying for me to enter the lounge and you say to me, like, oh, hey, just give me the £22 back later.
Yeah.
And then it turns out you get refunded. Do you still say to me, like, hey, pay me that £22? It's like, obviously, no.
And I guess another slight clarification was, he found out within about 30 minutes to like an hour of paying for me that he was completely refunded. We were still in the lounge eating and drinking when he found that he was fully refunded. So it wasn't as if this happened several days later.
No, although several days later he ended up being charged.
Yeah, which makes it a viewpoint. But up until that point, I would say that he would owe me that money still.
Yeah, and look, credit to him in the sense for the honesty. Like, here's the thing is,
he says no, for the record.
Yeah, he regretted it in the end. But if you were going to be honest, the reason for being honest was like, oh, guys, don't worry. None of us paid. It's a weird move to be honest and be like, but debt cleared. Like, that's the strange combination. You had to have any other position other than that, really. Either you realize that the debt wasn't cleared, so you don't say you got refunded, or you say you got refunded because you know the debt isn't cleared.
Now, it's a real shame. We should have told him we wanted him back on the podcast and that we missed him. And then the first thing we discuss is just go right into this debate. That would have sent him right off the podcast again.
And then kicked him out of the studio.
Yeah.
Just had that be the end of it. Yeah, no, it was good. You could tell, for the old listeners, he has that little bit of an itch. He wishes he were back. He liked to have those conversations that he would have had on the podcast, but he's gone forever. Now, maybe, do you have any other final sports topics before we maybe wrap up with some? I know we usually have I have one final sports topic, I will say.
I don't have any.
So, inspired by Reddit, I saw a trending Reddit thread today, which was, if you had gone into a coma in 2015, this was specific to the NFL, but we can open it up if you want to, but which NFL sort of story event from the last 9 years would have surprised you the most? I have a few. If nothing immediately comes to mind, I have a few suggestions from this Reddit discussion. To be clear,
can you give me one piece of information, or maybe like a few?
Yeah.
That 2015 season, what was happening that season? Who was the number one pick, and then who won the Super Bowl that season?
So the Broncos won the Super Bowl.
So that was the Peyton Manning Broncos Super Bowl win.
Yeah, over the Panthers. Well, that's 2016, so I guess it depends whether you want to. I guess if you go into a coma in 2015, you maybe have missed that. So
that's the 2016 Super Bowl for the 2015 season.
Yeah, so the 2014 season, that Super Bowl in 2015, that was what, the Seahawks winning? Was it? Or that was was that Malcolm Butler?
Was that the Butler Seahawks losing?
Yeah, that was the Malcolm Butler interception game. So that's when you've got into a coma as Malcolm Butler has intercepted that pass.
Okay. And who was drafted in April of 2015? That had to have been. That's got to be before Manziel.
So that draft, the number one pick was one of your favorites, Jameis Winston, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Just read me off a few.
Number 2, Marcus Mariota to the Titans. Number 3, Dante Fowler to the Jags. Number 4, Amari Cooper to the Raiders.
Okay.
You looking at their notable players from the draft, Todd Gurley to the Rams with the 10th pick.
Already retired.
Eric Armstead to the 49ers with the 17th pick. Marcus Peters to the Chiefs with the 18th. Aguilar to the Eagles with the 20th. It's not the greatest draft of all time, it has to be said. But yeah. So you've not missed any earth-shattering draft picks, although obviously you could have, when you went into your coma, you might have thought that Jameis Winston was going to be a game-changing draft selection. So Jameis Winston's disappointing NFL career or Marcus Mariota's disappointing NFL career might be two of the surprising storylines. I think there's an important little asterisk to add, which is no like pandemic-related themes. Not because we're sort of coronavirus deniers, but obviously clearly the most surprising thing from your 9 years of being unconscious would be the fact that the world shut down for a couple of years. You know, that, and then seasons were delayed and games were played in empty stadiums.
Okay, I can kind of get a funny one going off the bat. That Frank Gore only retired a year ago.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. I'll throw out some sort of the more serious ones from that. So that were suggested by Reddit. So one of them is that Seattle never have yet to make or win another Super Bowl. So obviously you're coming off, they'd won this previous Super Bowl 43-8 against Denver. Then they lost to, should have probably possibly won that game against New England and lost. You're kind of the prime of the Legion of Boom. Mm-hmm. And they never even made it to another Super Bowl.
That's not a bad one.
That's one of the suggestions. One of the other was this might be a strong candidate, that Tom Brady won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That would have been kind of inconceivable as you entered your coma. I think most would have expected him to finish his career with the Patriots and certainly not to end up with Tampa Bay.
Tom Brady winning a Super Bowl with another team is a really good one.
But in particular, Tampa Bay. Because not only is it him and another team, it's kind of a weird team for him to have ended up winning it with.
Okay. Seems a little unfair to the city of Tampa Bay, but okay.
Another one of the one of the main storylines is obviously the disappointing career then for Cam Newton. Made the Super Bowl the following year when he didn't, where he famously didn't jump on the fumble, Peyton Manning's final year, the 24-10 Denver Broncos win. But after that is kind of a spent force out of Carolina way earlier than expected, out of the league way earlier than expected. I mean, at that moment in time, you would have put him in the top 5 of the quarterbacks in the league, I think most people would have said. So for him to be done at this point is pretty shocking.
Any other good ones? I think you should add in Frank Gore plays another 7 seasons as running back. I think you should put that one in. That's a good one. To think in 2015 that he plays for another 7 seasons.
Looking through some other standout ones, a lot of it is Bills fans saying that nothing would surprise them.
That's really good. Did you see they're making a documentary about the Bills, the 4 Super Bowl losses?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Coming off the heels of, is that part of the last episode? The sports documentaries? Or is that in an actual episode?
No, that wasn't an actual episode. And yes, highlighting the Panthers was that they were coming off a 15-1 season when things kind of started to fall apart for them. Another suggestion is that not only is Blaine Gabbert still in the league, but he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion.
That's a really good one. I like that one.
One is a Broncos fan who said, if I woke up and learned we lost 16 straight games to the Chiefs, 8 straight games to the Raiders, I would ask to be put back into my coma. And then another one said, I'd be confused seeing Russell Wilson in a Broncos uniform. And then I'd ask, but didn't we draft any quarterbacks these last 10 years? And then I'd want to go back into my coma.
Broncos fans not too happy.
No, there are some pretty major fan bases just kind of enjoying the fact or commiserating over the fact that they are still as bad as they were right before you went into your coma. What happened to Antonio Brown is a big part of the discussion, and someone has posted a play-by-play of the weird things that Antonio Brown did over that time period, and it is remarkable, just in terms of how long it is and how incredible it is. Yeah, pretty.
What about a person is resuscitated on the field, and a large amount of Americans believe it's a conspiracy theory? That's pretty good.
Yeah, some other suggestions: Andrew Luck retiring without winning a Super Bowl, or just even, I guess you could say, Andrew Luck retiring when he did. Cam Newton never making another Super Bowl, and how the rest of his career panned out, which we already spoke about.
Cam Newton fighting off 4 people like they were little children.
Joe Flacco being on the Browns. Tom Brady winning another 4 Super Bowls.
Yeah, that's crazy. Another 4 Super Bowls. That's crazy.
The Chargers being in LA.
Yeah.
It's Matthew Stafford winning a Super Bowl, but not with Detroit.
A team in Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a guy who was drafted in 2017 has been to 4 Super Bowls and won 3. There's some good.
You probably knew him in college. Yeah, potential.
Not, yeah, but no, it's one of the most popular one is, speaking of the topic we previously had, is my wife is now banging my brother.
Wait, what?
Obviously, we had this
a little off script.
Yeah,
a little off the NFL script.
But yeah, okay. On to plain movie reviews. You obviously had a few opportunities to watch some movies. Did any excite?
Not particularly. On the way there, although I guess we didn't. It was on a lost episode. I watched Theater Camp, which was decently funny, a good movie, and then The Marsh King's Daughter, which was not very good. And I suffered from not being able to look at any online reviews because we were in the air and I didn't want to pay for the Wi-Fi. And watched the trailer, and the trailer and the movie are very different. Even the tagline and the movie are extremely different. So that was a disappointment. On the way back, I actually felt so shitty that I wasn't able to fully watch a movie. So instead, I just put on movies that I'd seen before and like went in and out of consciousness for like 9 hours, where I would watch like 30 minutes and then fall asleep for like 20 and then watch, another 30 and keep like, so I watched about 2/3 of 4 movies that I've seen before. And then that was really about it. And watched some Curb, because they had season 11 of Curb was on. So I rewatched some of those episodes as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty much fully up to date on Curb. My rewatch has now caught up with the new season.
That's crazy.
So I'm now, I think, 1 episode behind real time. So by the time the next episode airs, I will just be on the next episode. One of my most impressive achievements of the last couple of years.
Yeah, that is a lot of episodes.
Now, admittedly, I've fallen asleep through a couple, and because it's always something I've seen before, I have not gone back.
Yeah.
So, like, there's been 2 or 3 episodes at a time, maybe. There's probably like 10 episodes that I haven't actually watched during the rewatch process, just from like falling asleep and being like, whatever, I know what happened, so I'm not going to put myself through that process. But still, it's been a lot of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Now, we're obviously a little bit late to the party, but maybe worth. You've already brought up the creator of, or producer of, True Detective. Maybe worth just quickly summarizing our thoughts on True Detective season 4.
Spoiler alert. So if you haven't finished watching True Detective and you've made it through half the season, you might want to stop. At least don't let us spoil the rest of the season when you've put in a good amount of time or effort already.
Sure, and if you haven't already started watching season 4 of True Detective, don't bother.
Oh. I don't know if I would don't bother. I didn't love it. I didn't think it was the worst thing ever put together. The first, I don't know, it's weird. The first episode or 2 were good. But looking back on it now, I don't know if either it needed 2 more episodes or if they needed to better manage the plot within the episode timeframes they were given. Because I think what happened is they kind of just got a little off the rails in 2, 3, and 4, where they went off on these weird tangents of storylines and then didn't address the main plot points and storylines that they should have been developing. Like, here's a really easy one. The 2 detectives that work together, we really know nothing about their dynamic, except they had a falling out about a scene that you see 3 seconds of the same fucking scene 6 times. And you know nothing else about their dynamic or really what happened in the fallout. Did they really ever like each other? But like,
well, I mean, you were talking about Navarro and Danvers.
Yeah.
I mean, we know she killed the guy. That Navarro kills the guy, and they then made it to look like a suicide. But we know nothing about their
but then
dynamic prior
why
to that.
they know about that prior, but then why does that end up that Danvers ends up hating Navarro because of it? Because
I
at the
guess
end of the
because
day, one, Danvers admits, right, that she was also going to do the exact same thing.
I
That's
don't
what she
think she meant
says.
that. Right. I think that was because Navarro is living with her demons, and I think that was her way of trying to make her feel better. Of
Oh,
you
I
did
don't
something
think
that we
so. I
I
think
do.
she was genuinely going to do it.
I don't. I don't think when you look at the reaction she had when they do show it re-happening and the reaction she has to the moment that it happened in, I don't think that. I think that was just her trying to make Navarro feel better because she realized that Navarro was someone very much tormented by her past, including that.
I didn't. I saw her like pull the gun.
The storylines to me, I think they fleshed out characters in small areas, and then we just never got a full representation of any of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
So we wasted too much time. Like we got to see like a small percentage, whether that was Pryor and
His father.
his life, which we never really got to see at all. His relationship with his father, what had happened with that, why his father was supposed to be such an asshole, we never really got to understand. Like it comes out a little bit because obviously he was involved in the covering up of the murder of this girl, but we don't really know why. Apart
Or
from that,
whether, yeah, or whether he was actually close with his son Peter, and whether then Peter shooting him in the head really impacted him or not.
Yeah, we got nothing. Like we know that Danvers' daughter had died, but
son, that was a boy.
Son, but we don't really know anything about that. Navarro, we get the flashbacks to her being in Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever it is, but we don't really know why we're getting those flashbacks. Like it's just she's sometimes in ice and then all of a sudden she's in the desert, but we don't know why that's supposed to be meaningful.
Here's a good one. How about Peter Pryor's wife, who really loves him, 4 days later wants him out of the house and wants to be separated. 2 days later wants him back and loves him so much. What the fuck is that?
And seemingly the only reason for not loving him was that she was just frustrated that he was spending too much time on the job. Yeah. Like that seems to be his biggest flaw up until when he killed his dad.
And then she loves him again because he does a really terrible thing he has to take care of.
Doesn't say why, but because she needs him, he needs her.
Yeah.
And because it doesn't have to do directly with Danvers.
Yeah.
It's basically.
But it kind of does.
Yeah. Wouldn't have happened without her, but she didn't do it. Yeah, we just don't really know. I think it was a really bad season in the end. Like it had the potential to be good, and then there's too many characters, there's too many details. They're trying to keep too many possibilities alive going into the very end. Like you didn't know going into the final episode, or I guess final episode and a half. Like it could have, in a sense, been almost any character. Yeah. Like there was big theories on the internet that it was going to be Navarro who did all this. It could have been complete mystical element to it. We just really didn't know. And then it turns out it's like, well, they're kind of covering up. Like, well, the guys were just like covering up some environmental elements, and they killed a girl and then got killed by a bunch of women.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't mind what the mystery ended up being. I also didn't really mind the whole patricide part, but none of it was earned, and there wasn't enough development to make any of it meaningful or impactful. Like if they had sat down, and I assume this kind of has to be a little bit what happens with a mystery, is you kind of have an idea and then you kind of have your endings and kind of work backwards a little. If they put that on, I would be like, oh, that actually sounds pretty good. Like I would be in for that type of mystery and reveal and this and that. But then as they worked back, they didn't do a good job of setting up to make that super, like when he shoots his father, I'm just like, oh, I actually laughed. I was like, oh, that's not good. But, but then when I think about the mayor of Easttown, when there's like a really significant death that happens in that show, it was like quite impactful because they had done a lot of work to set up those characters.
Yeah, I mean, the single season miniseries is always going to struggle to compete with that, right? But I don't know. I kind of disagree with you on thinking that even the sort of final outcome may. Here's two big issues I have, even with the final outcome, which yes could have been solved, I suppose, by a longer series. One, this local woman who stumbles across their sort of ice cave where they're keeping all of these results. How on earth does she quickly process all of that data and understand that they're covering it up? Like, I think you could give me a few days to pore over environmental related data for me to even start to comprehend that a cover up was going on. So that's one thing. And then these cleaners, they discover the ice cave, which immediately makes them suspicious, although it really shouldn't in a scientific research facility that's studying stuff going on under the ice. Like, it would be like, oh, okay, makes sense. And then they go down there and seemingly just like noticing a thing that could have been used to stab someone.
They're like
Like,
amazing sleuths. They become Sherlock Holmes within the day. And then not only that, even more comical was the woman who was cleaning the police office and was taking evidence and taking iPhone photos of like the evidence files. Like, come on. Are you like, I laughed at that scene as well. I genuinely chuckled at seeing this like older woman like flipping through case files, taking pictures on an iPhone. And like the other thing I think we both talked about is I don't understand why it had to just be the indigenous women of the city. And I get if that was the message, that the indigenous women have been, crazily mistreated. And I mean, there is a lot of valid real life evidence for that. They didn't really show that in this show. It was one woman who gets murdered. It wasn't as if this was 6 or 7 indigenous women getting murdered and then the women in the town had to take it on themselves. It could have just as easily been the entire indigenous community because they're the ones that are being affected. It's not just the women. The men are also having trouble. The men are dying. The families are having stillbirths. Like it is a community issue. So I don't understand why it had to just be like these indigenous mafia women.
Yeah, and I don't want to come across as like one of those anti-woke screaming.
No, and that's not what I'm saying. Like,
I know, but there's the risk, right, in being critical of that's we're gonna have people being like, that's what I think too, and it's like, no, that's not what we're saying. We're thinking, and it's not like the anti-woke criticism. It's not saying this is the same reason why Lord of the Rings, the TV, like the Amazon show, was ruined because of the commitment to diversity and female characters and stuff like that. But there was a certain element as the whole show went on was like, okay, so you don't believe the storyline surrounding the scientists, like when they get told by the plant representative or whatever that it was caused by some freeze. They don't believe them. But at the same time, there's a moment in time where they stopped caring about figuring out what had happened to these 9 guys or whatever it was, including when they capture the one guy. That isn't like even one of the questions they initially ask him.
Yeah.
They don't go like, what happened to your colleagues? That's a question that they ask him after they've like asked about whether he loves the girl and stuff, and then beaten the shit out of him. And then eventually like, so what happened to all your colleagues? Why are you the only one alive? It like, that was the other thing that sort of, I don't know, bothered me about it. It was like, and ultimately they were sort of accepting of, oh, okay, so some women did it. It's not so bad.
Yeah. And again,
we can live with that.
I think it just could have easily been the indigenous community because there wasn't enough backstory to set up that the women in particular were being so mistreated that they had to take it on their own hands, which again, I would have been fine with that story, but it never played out that way. Like when they do the, whatever it is, the protests, the people leading the protests are like men as well. It's not just a female protest. It's like a male and female protest. Like, why couldn't it have just been the community?
No, yeah, you're right. Now here's the real question: sort of, do you think Navarro is dead at the end of the show?
I don't think so.
You don't?
No, you don't. You think that's her ghost? That's on the outside with Danvers.
So watching it, when I initially watched it, I didn't think she was dead. Then when I have done my little bit of reading about the show post viewing, I lean more towards the fact that she's dead. Like, I mean, she was walking off into the ice in clothes that were completely unsuited to that environment, so the chances of her surviving seem relatively slim. But
I mean, yeah, I will say, like, so I think my biggest criticism is they didn't develop those first few episodes to make the last two pay off. The other criticism I have is that there is just a lot of little things that you don't really have to nitpick, but you can just tap on the surface of the glass. For instance, the power runs out in this facility. You then see them 8 hours later driving away with a truck that was in that facility. We saw a scene where there were 4 or 5 of those trucks in that facility. Why couldn't they have just sat in the truck with the heat on for 8 hours as the blizzard left? There were multiple cars in there, and I would bet you that there's gasoline in there to fuel those cars up because if they're in a remote area. You could have just sat in a car with the fucking heat on. That's not like a crazy nitpick, considering they used that same car 6 hours later.
yeah, I mean, or even why did they go to like separate rooms?
Yeah.
You know, why is she going off into like a bedroom and getting into a guy's bed to sleep versus, hey, we have this suspect here.
Let's do our job.
Maybe we should stay by the suspect.
Why did she have to take a nap? They were so excited to get this guy and start digging into some details that they just were like, all right, this is good for now. Let's take a 4-hour break and we'll come back and get the rest of the story.
Also, I know it ends with some kind of police investigation into what happened going on. But the fact that Navarro had sort of redeemed herself by providing Danvers with a video of the guy confessing on a video where he's tied up and clearly beaten, as if the police are going to be like, that's not a forced confession. We're going to...
Yeah. Well, I would assume that then led to an investigation and then they were able to uncover things.
Maybe. At which point the crime scene had been completely, tampered with and destroyed. But I don't know. It's
Here's another slight little nitpick. The whole scientific aspect is that the pollution kind of melted some of the permafrost to make it able to get whatever like samples they were trying to collect. I think they said like bacteria or whatever. Couldn't they alternatively had said maybe there's a way besides polluting this area that we can slowly melt the permafrost to get these samples? Why wasn't that like a somewhat thought out of 8 scientists?
Maybe, although I would give them their defense, right? I don't think if you pitched, hey, let's just intentionally thaw the permafrost, I don't think people are going to be on board with that as an environmental policy.
But if they had already found microorganisms that cured cancer.
I don't know. I think even then people would be like, we're going to destroy the environment to maybe get a scientific breakthrough, even if you think you have it. I could get that being like, let's just do this the easy way. The one thing I would say is why they still thought they were such scumbags for doing this when it's like, hold on a second, we were on the verge of a medical breakthrough, the likes of which we've like never really seen. Like, this is penicillin on steroids. And people are, yeah, but you're assholes and you killed a girl. So it's like, maybe she shouldn't have wanted to destroy our scientific research that was about to save millions of lives. Did you think about that one?
Maybe.
I'm not justifying killing her, but I do think people might have been slightly more sympathetic than they were portrayed as. It's like, how could you do that? It's like, I don't know. She kind of set the scientific community back by decades, and because she didn't like a little bit of pollution.
So one of the things I'll ask you then is, all of the seasons of True Detective have the mystical element, but that can be explained by completely natural events. In this season, the way that the scientists die, according to the women, is that the women just let them out into the wilderness, and that if whatever was going to get them deemed them bad people, it would get them, and seemingly it got them. Do you like that idea?
That bit doesn't bother me, because one of the things that bothered me actually about True Detective season 1 was the fact that in the end you kind of had to accept an element of mysticism, and that sort of annoyed me. So I'm happy with the seasons where it's like mysticism might be the answer, but in the end it's not really, which is kind of what season 4 is. That to me is
Maybe
the most
5%.
Yeah, that's the most redeeming element of this season, possibly. But this is the worst season of True Detective for me, and it's not close. I know people hate season 2 of True Detective.
I don't like season 2.
I didn't dislike it as much as most people did, but this to me is by far and away, like, it's going to be hard to get me to watch season 5 of True Detective after this experience.
Yeah. It's just, I think that's the issue sometimes with, you have a good show that's a 1-season show and you keep trying to replicate it every year after year. It's never going to be the same show. Like, I would have probably preferred this if they didn't try and put a True Detective spin on it and just let her tell her entire story how she originally had it. I bet you would have been better. You know, having to kind of put in all these elements of like the Carcosa and all that shit. Like, here's another good question. What the fuck was with that van thing then? That what's his face was staying in after Annie K died, and he had like the shrine tour. What was the purpose of that at the end of the day?
He was just obsessed.
Like, it's just like brushed under the table. There's a lot of weird elements in there that, that wouldn't have even been in there probably, or it would have been a different scenario. Like, I think this show suffered by trying to infuse True Detectivisms into a show that probably originally had nothing to do with True Detective.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So True Detective's already been renewed for season 5. It's unclear at this point whether this will be a follow-up to season 4 or
no way. They're not following up on that again.
There's some expectation that maybe
the sun has risen on the night country.
That would disappoint me for 2 reasons. 1, because I thought this was disappointing, and 2, because like part of the charm of the True Detective approach now is that each season is standalone, and that you are telling a different story in a different place. It's like, and even if you want to slightly connect those things, it's like the Fargo TV series, where it's like, no, you don't really need to watch any of the others to appreciate it, but yeah, there'll be some callbacks or references or whatever, but fundamentally these are isolated, like, an anthology seasons series. Yeah. And if they start doing like, well, no, we're now going to keep following Danvers for another year, it's like, no, thank you, we don't need more Danvers. Like,
some of the 180s on this show were pretty epic. How about when Danvers told Navarro she would, I think, shoot her fucking mouth off her disgusting face if she talked about her son. And then 30 minutes later, she's like, so what did my son say? I mean, that was aggressive.
Yeah, and how on earth Navarro found her in the ice water.
Yeah.
Pitch black. Couldn't hear a sound.
Nope.
She breaks through the ice, and yet she's found within 35 seconds.
After we were told the previous episode that when you fall on the ice, the issue becomes the currents that take you down. And Peter's father had to like run downstream or down ocean or whatever to like crack the ice to catch him. But now seemingly she falls in and she's just there. No more currents.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was, I don't know. Honestly, it was a bad season of TV by the end of it. It promised to be good. But yeah, I don't regret watching it, but it's put me off future seasons.
It's a shame because I watched those last 2 episodes and I saw that there could have been potential, and they just did not take off the plane properly to land it like they wanted to.
They didn't do any part of the flight properly. Takeoff was a little rocky. There was massive turbulence throughout the entire flight, and I would argue that they crashed the plane about 7 miles away from the airport.
They got caught in that supersonic jet stream in episodes 2, 3, and 4 and just blew by things. I was like, whatever happened to this subplot of this super villainous woman who runs the whole town behind the mines? And in one episode, you go from knowing nothing about her to knowing she's orchestrated almost everything to never seeing her again.
No, it would be... you could tell me there could be like an article that comes out that says that originally True Detective season 4 was supposed to be 12 episodes, and then they cut it down and they had to do like some last minute editing, and key elements and story arcs were left out as a result. Like, that would be believable. That's really big criticism to have of a TV show, of like, it would make sense to think that you had to edit this in a way you didn't think you were going to have to.
Yeah. It's weird because every other season had 8 episodes, right? And this only had 6.
Maybe that's the excuse. But even 2 more episodes, they wouldn't have been able to land that plane.
You could have. You had a chance in the middle, I think, to make it better.
But Frank, every episode, they introduced another element. Why would you believe that those 2 extra episodes wouldn't have included 4 new storylines and not finished any of the other ones?
I'm giving the benefit of the doubt that they really enhanced these storylines that we saw and didn't introduce any others. Here's another, my last one. What's the deal with the guy who like ran off and had that little cabin at the edge of the world? Why did we know anything about that guy?
The heroin addict or whatever?
No. The guy who was like the engineer at the place and then quit. Oh. Why do we need to know anything about that guy?
And why did he disappear?
What was the point of that?
Can we also discuss how did that woman who was like a newspaper, was like an author, like a writer or a journalist or whatever it was?
Professor. She's a professor.
A professor.
Rose Agnew.
Moves to Alaska and becomes this like wild mountain woman who like knows how to do everything. It's not totally unbelievable.
I mean, the implication there is she's killed a few people in her day. And maybe that's why she's there, because she has a different name. Maybe something happened.
Maybe.
Did you see there was a major conspiracy theory? Conspiracy, because it's not real to begin with, but a major theory that she was not real and that it was all Navarro's imagination. And that Peter was going to go there and there was going to be like no one there.
The hole in that plot was that she like called the police in episode 1.
Maybe. Maybe she called Navarro in quotes.
Yeah, maybe. But no.
That was a wild one for me. I was like, there's no way.
But yeah, overall disappointing. Hopefully, it's been a while since I've had a really good TV show, so hopefully something new comes along relatively soon that can
maybe
not let me down.
All right, well, I think with that little sad note from Eddie, we can call it a day.
All right, sounds good.
Talk to you later.
See you.
Cheerio.